Chuck Pollock has been writing for the Olean Times-Herald and the Bills for a very long time, at least 30-plus years, I can tell you that. And nobody knows the inside and outs of this Buffalo Bills team and franchise better than Chuck Pollock, and he joins us here on Big Board Sports in Albany. Good morning, Chuck.
Raj, it's been a while. I've been covering this team for 44 years. I feel like I haven't talked to you in 44 years.
I know. It's been a while. We were on a roll there forever. And, now I'm on a new station here in Albany with ESPN Radio, and it's great to have you with us. And let's just start with how seriously should we be taking this Buffalo Bills team right now after 3 straight wins, all by double digits?
Roger, I'll tell you something, and I'm not being a Bills apologist. When this season started, I thought they would go 8-8 again. I figured after 5 games they would be 2-3. I picked the games every week. So far, I'm 0 for 5. I assumed they would go to Baltimore and win close. I assumed that coming back home they would handle the Jets. Both those things didn't happen. I assumed that Arizona would come in here and just club them. They did not. They go to New England, where they, as you know, struggle perpetually, and they win, shutting that team out for the first time at home in 23 years. And then they go to the West Coast, where historically they have played poorly, and they handle a Rams team that isn't great, but the fact is they did come into the game 3-1. And you know, there are mitigating circumstances with each of those 3 wins. Arizona is clearly off to a poor start. The Patriots are without Brady. The Rams, yesterday, for instance, did not have 3 of their 4 starting defensive linemen. But the fact is, this is the NFL. Players get suspended. Players get hurt. And as you know, Raj, for watching the games year after year after year, in the NFL, it's not so much who you play, but when you play them. But I will say, this year, the last 3 games, this has been a different team, attitude-wise, most principally. There are no big ego guys. There are no Mario Williams. There are no Terrell Owens. This is just kind of a gritty group. Some of the Bills who have played big roles were picked up as last-minute additions because of injuries to other players. And the big thing that's happened is that all of a sudden, Rex Ryan has really been humbled. I think that 0-2 start really bugged him, and he's just been a different guy the last 3 weeks, and so has this team.
We're talking with Chuck Pollock, Olean Times-Herald, LaShawn McCoy. Shady looks like his old self, ran for $150 yesterday. And, I was a little bit surprised when they changed coordinators and fired their offensive coordinator earlier in the year after that 0-2 start. Has that made a difference? Is that one of the reasons why the Bills look a little bit better offensively?
Roger, it has to. And it's funny because it appeared to be the classic panic move. Because when the Bills started 0-2, I was convinced they were going to open the season 0-5, and there was a chance that Rex was going to lose his job. So it seemed the classic circumstance of throwing a guy under the bus to save yourself. Well, Anthony Lynn, who is the assistant head coach and in charge of running backs, is put in that spot, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they're 3-0 under him. And yesterday I thought was a perfect example. Keep in mind, he's the running backs guy. He knows Shady very well. And yesterday, he looks at what's coming up against him with the Rams, 3 defensive linemen out. What are you going to do? You're going to run it right at him the whole game. And they did. They ran for $193 and averaged 7 yards a carry. And it seems like every game they've been put in a position offensively to do well. And the New England game was a perfect example. They had a game plan that worked. And so I think a lot of credit goes to Anthony Lynn, and all of a sudden, what looked like a desperation move on Rex's part looks like pretty much sheer genius.
Chuck, Zach By hanging out with Roger this morning in studio on Big Board Sports. The question is just sort of hanging there, begging, so I'll go ahead and ask it. Is the longest playoff drought in professional sports come to an end this year?
I thought it was a toss-up when the season began, Zach. And, of course, after they're 0-2, I'm thinking that's not the question. The question is, does the coach last the whole year? But as I told Raj, this is a different team the last 3 weeks, and not so much because they've just won, but the way they've won and the attitude of the team. all of a sudden, 5 games, and I realize it's only 5 games in, but right now the Bills are tied for the 5th best record in the AFC. They would lose the second wild card if the season ended today because they lost the head-to-head with Baltimore, which is also 3-2. But all of a sudden, Miami looks terrible. The Jets look not very good. And when you look down the list of teams in the AFC, there's not a lot of strength. And clearly there are 11 games to play, and a lot of things could happen. But I guess given where the Bills are now, I'd be stunned if they weren't in the mix. And the other thing is, Zach, and this stuns me. I mean, I've been covering this team since 1973, and the loyalty of this fan base is astonishing to me. Why would people keep showing up where year after year after year you don't make the playoffs? And they do. They sell out every single game. So the loyalty is there, and it will be interesting on Sunday. San Francisco's coming in. That's their next up. It's a game everybody would expect they would win. And it's funny. The old joke used to be the mood of Buffalo was dependent on a Monday, what the Bills did on Sunday. And clearly for the last 3 weeks, this fan base has really been fired up, and they expect maybe this is the year.
Chuck Pollock, Olean Times-Herald, covering the Buffalo Bills for 44 years. The next 2 games, as you said, Chuck, home to San Fran and then on the road at Miami. I mean, there's no reason why this team, if they continue to play like they have the last couple of weeks, should not be sitting with a 5-2 record.
That's, of course, as we know, the best laid plans, but you're right. I mean, that's exactly how I would look at it. And of course, then if you extend the schedule one more week, then New England's here with Brady, and you kind of have a feeling, I'm not sure I'm beating that team twice. But even with a loss there, if you're at the halfway pole and it's they're 5-3, given what I perceive to be a lack of strength in the AFC, you say, hey, they still got a shot. Their schedule still is tough, though. One of the problems, Roger, is they've got 3 West Coast trips. They've won 1, but they go to Oakland and they go to Seattle on a Monday night, and you just kind of have to chalk those up as losses. But still, those are losses you looked at the beginning of the season when you thought, what does it take for them to get to 10-6? So there's a lot of optimism here. I don't know how long it will last, but certainly people have been so frustrated so many times over the last 16 years. They like the idea that after a terrible start to this season, they got something they can hook their star to.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm not a Bills fan per se. My partner, Zachary By, is. But I do feel for Buffalo fans for this incredible long playoff drought. I want to see it end. I am tired of talking about the Bills and not making the playoffs. Just get them into the postseason, for crying out loud. Let's end this discussion. It starts in the preseason. As soon as we get close to training camp, it begins. Is this the year the Buffalo Bills are making the playoffs? Every stinking year. I am so tired of it, Chuck. Please just make the playoffs.
Well, I'll tell you, Raj, and you're absolutely right. I tell people all the time, 16 years, you would think by accident you would make the playoffs once or twice. Yeah. Even the Lions, when they were horrendous, they found a way into the playoffs. And so this is this. I'm not paid to be a fan. I'm paid to be objective. But I do see a little difference this year, and I see a conference that doesn't look as strong top to bottom as it's been in recent years. So maybe this is the year. By the way, Raj, I would be remiss if I didn't say I was immensely proud of your alma mater on Saturday. Now, maybe Maryland was overrated, but I found that to be a fantastically entertaining game.
It was awesome, man. I was there 2 weeks ago. They beat Minnesota, and then they turned around and beat Maryland, and I've been so down on Penn State. My good friend Pete Doherty, a Penn Stater, I was like, you can't beat any of the good teams. We just can't beat them anymore. And then I was at a wedding with a lot of Penn State people talking so negatively about the Nittany Lions. They said, hey, knucklehead, it's one of the younger teams in college football. Just relax. They're going to be fine. They are just a young team. They're going to get some good wins. They turn around and beat Maryland. And I listened to the game on radio before I headed over to Albany on Saturday. And I got to be honest with you, I was impressed with that victory.
Well, yeah, and I was thinking about you at the time, you and Pete. Pete worked for me. I know him forever, and yeah, there was a bumpy part in Penn State's recent past, and you had a major question whether it would become an elite program again. But it's wins like Saturday that they cause you to think, maybe that can happen.
Maybe. Now we got to beat Ohio State.
Exactly right.
Hey, Chuck, always a pleasure. Great to hear your voice again. My partner, Zachary Bai, is a big Buffalo Bills fan. I can trust me on this show. The Bills will not be ignored, especially if they can continue. So we've got your number. We'll reach back out. It won't be the big drought that we've had from the last time you've been on our show. I can guarantee you that.
I understand it. Raj and Zach, have a great day.
Thank you, Chuck. Man. Chuck Pollock, Olean, Times-Herald.